On this week's episode, we're talking the big news from the Game Awards. What familiar names could be in a new Star Wars universe? Our holiday gift guide for board games, and is Quentin Tarantino boldly going where he's never gone before? And is Quentin Tarantino boldly going where he's never gone before? All this and more as we once again delve into the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. I said it real quickly, Josh, because I was listening the other day to podcasters that really enjoy listening to podcasts on a higher speed. And so I thought I would go to one of our networks and listen to one of ours on a higher speed. So I listened to it at 1.5, 1.6. And I really sounded like this. And I really got to go. No, it's going to be a great show. Have a great episode. It was like, how do they do that? Muy props to all those individuals out there who play this episode and other podcasts out there at a higher speed, because tell you what, I tried and man, I sound really weird. But it's definitely going to be another great episode indeed. I'm here along with my good friend. He is the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanican Media, and you definitely want to check out all the great stuff he's got going on the Humanican Media channels on Podbean, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. It's Josh Peterson. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, man. Yeah, not much. Just editing podcasts, doing all that good stuff, doing some Topicocalypse last night. So plenty of content coming down the old pipeline.
You did not sound so bad at 1.5 and 1.6 speed. I just want to tell you that right now. I sounded like a chipmunk. That's all I can say. But it's definitely, tell you what, it's definitely going to be another great show. We've got a lot lined up for you today. We've got Rob McCallum standing by in the Cosmic Crossfire once again. Plus also as well, we have Salvador Villa from Mario Party Wars giving everyone his thoughts on the best holiday gift ideas in the realm of board games. So if as board games have become more popular, they have now really become a wanted gift during the holiday season. Always can find great value in them as far as under $40, sometimes even under $20 as well. So Sal's going to be stopping by with some great ideas in the realm of board games. Looking forward to that as well. Plus, we've got some great topics to talk about it from Star Trek, Star Wars, and a lot more coming up. And also at the back end of the show, after our show is over, we've got a special fantasy football playoff preview from our good friend from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast. It's Tyler Baker. He's going to be coming up on the back end after this show ends with a special preview indeed. But before we hit our first topic, I just want to mention again, until 12/14, you have a chance to vote for the Pop Culture Cosmos show as part of the 2017 Discover Pods Awards. We have been named a finalist, one of the nominees in the Best Society and Culture podcast, and we are truly honored and humbled to be a part of that outstanding group of nominees that's within that category. So if you get a chance, go to discoverpods.com. They've got a link right there for the 2017 Discover Pods Awards. You want to go to page 2 after you make a couple selections, or if you want to select on all the categories, they've got lots of great podcasts to choose from in several different categories. We're on page 2 in the society and culture category. So if you get a chance, please, if you get a chance and vote for us for the Best Society and Culture podcast, we truly appreciate it. Once again, that's discoverpods.com, discoverpods.com. So Josh, first off, what just happened very recently was the Game Awards. Basically a celebration of the video game culture and video game lifestyle, and a lot of great news came out of it. One thing I wanted to ask you as we were leading up to the days of the Game Awards was, since it had been taken off or was not able to be renewed on Spike Television and is now just broadcast virtually through internet options only. Wanted to ask you, as far as your thoughts on the Game Awards itself, is it still relevant, and is it still proven to be something that people are still having or wanting to turn to if they are big fans of video games?
It's even more relevant now than it was before, I think, because ever since they stopped showing it on TV and they started showing it on the internet, there are now so many more places on the internet where you can watch these types of things. You watch E3, you can watch these Microsoft and Nintendo Direct conferences and all this stuff.
PlayStation Experience coming up.
PlayStation Experience. There's so many other places. Like, you can do it on Twitch, YouTube, GameSpot, IGN. Like, there's so many bigger places that have that you can watch these things. And what's even better is that you can watch them in a community with like-minded gamers, where you could sit there and actually talk to each other. That they didn't offer that on TV. You couldn't really get, unless you went onto like a Reddit board or something. But they didn't have when it's on Spike TV. All you do is really watch it, and you're stuck with their commentary. But now you can go to the publication of your choice, the people you like listening to, even if it's like on a podcast like Giant Bomb or Kind of Funny or something, and you can listen to them talk about it as the conference is streaming. So I think the internet kind of, if anything, made it more accessible for gamers.
Well, I will tell you this. In the waning years of the Game Awards, when it was called the VGAs, on Spike Television, it kind of was losing its luster as far as a presentation is concerned. There were less and less important news or important outcomes to be had on it, and it kind of got out of hand with certain individual comedians and that was just kind of getting kind of losing its luster within the industry, and also kind of losing its luster from gamers who were kind of tuning out on the actual event itself. But I agree with you. Now that it's just an internet only or predominantly internet based function that will still, emanates through, like you said, Polygon, IGN, GameSpot, Twitch, so many others, YouTube, so many other outlets that you can now catch it on there. It is now gearing itself back towards the gaming industry and also the gaming fans, and providing them with definitely something that is very interesting. And there's still lots of support that the Game Awards has, just based off of what the news was, just based off the news that was translated this evening, with all the great trailers and all the great news items that were made. And some of those we'll just recap here for you. And Josh, I want to hear your thoughts on some of these. We had another Death Stranding video, which I know you took a look at also as well, a World War Z game based off of, well, either the book adaptation and also the film adaptation. I'm sure it's going to take a little bit from each as well. Also, Soul Calibur 6 was announced, a new game coming from Software, the makers of Bloodborne and Dark Souls. Also, Fortnite just released for a limited time a new 50 on 50 mode, and that's something I might actually check out, because that definitely sounds like a lot of fun there. They've had great success with their battle royale being something that's like a Pepsi to the PUBG's Coke, for instance. The best way to phrase it. And they've actually struck gold with battle royale mode for the game Fortnite, and a 50 on 50 mode on top of it might actually make it even sweeter to play that. Also as well, they had announced Zelda Breath of the Wild. They had a DLC that just dropped as it was being announced on the VGA, on the Game Awards, and also Sea of Thieves gets a release date in spring 2018. So I ask you, Josh, of those or any of the other announcements that were made, plus also a new Tomb Raider is now in development, which we pretty much figured that was going to happen anyways. What are some of the things that stuck out to you with the announcements that were made at this week's Game Awards?
I'm excited to finally get a release date for Sea of Thieves. That's been long overdue. We've seen that at 2 E3s, maybe 3 E3s. No, 2 E3. Yeah, we've seen it at 3 E3s now, and it looks like a massive game. People have been playing it. The feedback has been mostly positive, but they haven't given us a release date yet. So it's been one of those things where we've been wondering, are we going to see this anytime soon, or is it going to come out on the next generation of consoles, whenever that may be, or what's the deal with this thing? So now they finally give us a release date of, I think it was March.
It's March 20th. It's going to be coming out to PC and Xbox One.
Yeah, and so and that's exciting, and it's also really cool that Nintendo decided to take the conference by storm by not only announcing a Bayonetta 3 for the Switch, and then giving us more footage of Metro Exodus, but also releasing Legend of Zelda, the expansion, that day. Like that was really cool. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but that is Nintendo definitely knows how to get the attention of the crowd.
And Bayonetta 3 was announced as a Nintendo Switch exclusive. Plus, also as well, they announced that Bayonetta 1 and 2, a bundle, will actually be coming to the Nintendo Switch, I believe in mid-February, if I'm not mistaken. The Wii U version of Bayonetta 2 actually had the original Bayonetta. It came along with it, but definitely... Bayonetta 2 actually came with Bayonetta 1 with the Wii U version, and it looks like it's going to be more of the same for the Nintendo Switch. So it will be definitely a something for Nintendo Switch fans can get into before Bayonetta 3 comes out. I do hope for Bayonetta 3 it is much better supported and much more endearing to gamers than Bayonetta 2 was, which was very highly rated but not very highly supported on the Wii U. On the Wii U.
Yeah, Bayonetta 1 I remember got a lot. It was, people liked it. It was sort of critically acclaimed. Bayonetta 2 kind of went under the radar a little bit. It underperformed. I'm looking at Nintendo Switch as being kind of a fresh canvas for a lot of game studios, as far as like breathing new life into old franchises. We've had, look at Elder Scrolls. We got Doom, got a brand new Mario Kart, Fire Emblem. A lot of these games that haven't, they were out on the Wii U and the Wii, and they kind of underperformed. And now they're out on the Switch and they're looking good. And even Xenoblade Chronicles 2, like it's not exactly, it's scoring well among gaming publications and stuff, but the gamers are kind of like, it's not too great. But it's still like it's cool to look at. It's got a fresh start, and this is kind of a chance for these game companies to breathe new life into old things. And if it's cool that gamers are willing to give these things a new chance, and I think having the ability to play these games on the go is definitely helping it out too.
Well, I also liked most of all that Bethesda actually understanding what's going on with the trends in the game industry made pretty much a public plea and a public drive to gamers, asking them in the future going forward to help support single player narrative games. That to me was really very moving, very touching, and very poignant, knowing what other companies are leaning towards in the not too distant future. Well, actually, leaning towards period, as far as within the gaming industry, with microtransactions, loot boxes, and consumer spending options. As far as that is concerned, Bethesda is still showing that they can do very well with a single player narrative, whether it's an open world or not. I was kind of worried seeing the numbers originally that Wolfenstein 2: The New Blood was not performing as well as expected in the beginning, but to see it perform at a extremely high level during Black Friday was very pleasing to me, that people are reinforcing the fact that a good single player narrative can make money in the gaming industry, and that Bethesda's belief to stand behind it for the foreseeable future is definitely very pleasing to myself. Excuse me. very pleasing to myself as far as what to look forward to from Bethesda, and also other gaming entities out there that just don't want to go with the trends that are followed by right now by EA, Activision, and 2K. So that's definitely a great thing that Bethesda did by making those statements known and coming up with a video and a trailer that reinforces the fact that they still believe in the single player narrative as a profitable gaming device. So what are your thoughts out there on the Game Awards? Did you like who was, oh, well, actually, you know what? Let's do a rundown. I'll do a rundown of, hold on. I'm going to do a rundown. But the Game Awards was not just about the announcements and the trailers and all the great things that was said and done during the presentation itself, but there's also the Game Awards itself. And I'll tell you what, the big winners obviously was Zelda Breath of the Wild winning for Game of the Year, and also Game of the Year. Best narrative was What Remains of Edith Finch, in a very great surprise for I think that's one for the indie games right there. Best performance was best independent game was Cuphead. Although, Josh, can you really make Cuphead an independent game since it's really gotten very much involved with the Xbox One process? Can you still say it's a really truly great independent game? I guess you can on a technicality, but definitely Cuphead winning that was not too much of a surprise. Also as well, best action game was Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. So there's a lot of belief in that game doing very well going forward. What are your thoughts on some of those games? Plus, also as well some of the award winners at this year's Game Awards.
As for Cuphead, I think that it started out as an indie game, but then it kind of moved into the realm of not being an indie game, and that's kind of we have the same problem with the like movies. You have movies who claim to be indie films, but they're just made by subsidiaries of like Fox, and you have like Fox Searchlight and stuff like that. So hold on, I'm trying to, where are the
I just sent it to you.
What's that?
I sent it to you.
Let's see, hold on. Sorry, give me 1 second, man.
Oh no, you just I know I just granted run that.
I know
some of the other games, best esports game is still Overwatch, even though it's not even a new game anymore. It's still considered the premier game in the esports fathom. There's also Forza Motorsport 7 won for best sports or racing game. Not surprising there because of how beautiful that game looks. Best strategy game was Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which actually to me is not a surprise at all, because that game has really gotten a lot of love since it's been released, and you and I both commented on it when we were at the Ubisoft booth at E3. The best family game was Super Mario Odyssey. I guess they had to figure out a category for it to win, even though it is scored very, very high with a lot of critics this year.
Let's see.
Best role-playing game is Persona 5. That's not a surprise considering how well it took off earlier this year as well.
Yeah. Well, we kind of knew Super Mario was going to take something home, but it's weird because it hasn't been out that long. It already won an award. I had heard mixed things about the Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Like, I heard it was fun, but I heard it's very difficult. I'm glad to see Forza won over Gran Turismo, but it seems to be a theme for them. And as far as esports go, Overwatch was kind of global Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends, Rocket League. Like, it was kind of a no-brainer who was going to win that one, just because Overwatch has such a massive following. I'm back here. I'm up here. I like to see that game as far as like games for impact. I like to see that Hellblade won something, and Ninja Theory. Ninja Theory deserves this. I don't know if you read this, but they actually people have been calling them out, saying that hey, you're doing this for attention, and just to prove them wrong, they actually have donated, I think, more than half of their profits from Hellblade to mental health foundations. So that was really, really cool to see that happen.
Definitely. And as you pointed out earlier this year with your thoughts on the game itself, plus also your streams that you showed on the Humanican Media channel, and like I said, the review that you left for it on popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, you thought very highly of the game and what it represents for mental health.
Yeah, it was great. Like it kind of covered a wide range of mental health topics, but it was cool to see how they handled it, how they got professionals involved. It wasn't the train wreck that 13 Reasons Why was, which you also know my thoughts on. And as for Game of the Year, I was, it was kind of, we knew that Legend of Zelda was going to take some kind of award away from this. It's cool to see Horizon Zero Dawn up there, but it just didn't get as talked about as Legend of Zelda. That game has been, anytime you hear someone talk about it, they say how great it is. You listen to people on podcasts. Like I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and people have been saying like, hey, this is my pick for Game of the Year. And Legend of Zelda is the one game that's been mentioned more than any other game. And this is the first time I've seen a Game of the Year that actually deserves to be called Game of the Year.
Well, that's definitely some great thoughts indeed. Some outstanding games were picked. But for me, the biggest thing I'm going to take away from the Game Awards is that the Game Awards itself is still very much relevant. There were some hard times for it in years past. I thought there were some years that I think they should just pack it in and call it a day and leave it for the 15,000 other conventions, 15,000 other cons and experiences and expos that actually can do a somewhat better job at times of promoting products to the fans. But this year's The Game Awards has proven to me that there is still life in this concept, especially because of the fact it piggybacks off of the PlayStation experience year in, year out. So definitely there is some signs that the Game Awards is still something viable within the industry, that it's still got support in and out of the industry, and that it's still supported by fans, and that it will still be something worthwhile for years to come. What are your thoughts on the Game Awards? Did you like the show itself? Do you think it's still very much relevant? Do you think it needs to be gotten rid of? And what did you think about the award winners at the Game Awards this week? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Humanica Media on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, like I said, we got a great program coming up for you, including the Cosmic Crossfire with Rob McCallum. He's standing by right after the break. Plus, later on in the episode, we've got Salvador Villa from Mario Party Wars sharing his thoughts on great holiday gifts in the realm of board gaming. We're also going to be talking some ideas on this whatever's going on between Amazon and Google and Apple and that like battle royale that they're all fighting each other and one's going here, one's going there, one, what's being taken out, what's being, and it's all confusing to everybody out there as they're trying to go ahead and utilize their streaming devices, whether it's a Fire, an Apple TV, what have you. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, as well as what's going on with Star Trek. Could it be getting a shot of some Tarantino? We'll let you know, as far as that's concerned, our thoughts on Quentin Tarantino possibly helming a new Star Trek in the future. We're going to share our thoughts on that and even more as we come back. This is the PCC Multiverse. And even more when we come back. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the program. This is the PCC Multiverse. My name is Joe Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. Remember, if you get a chance by 12/14, please give us, please, if you can, please give us some love out there for the Discover Pods Awards. That's discoverpods.com. You'll see an advertisement for 2017 Discover Pods, for the 2017 Discover Pod Awards. If you do decide to go ahead and vote for us in the Best Society and Culture podcast category, we truly appreciate it and are truly grateful to you out there indeed. Josh, you've got a great thing going on with Humanica Media. You got a lot of things in the fire there like you were talking about earlier. What's going on with all the wonderful things at Humanica Media?
It's actually a lot this week. So we got a new Inside Sports. Gonna try to have it up tonight, and then we'll have a new topic. Eclipses will be dispersed throughout the week. I'm just trying to catch up on everything before the new year hits, and then we will be. You're going to be hearing a new What About This on Monday. That's the official release date. Which it's been a while since we've heard from those guys. So if you're one of the people who subscribe to that, be sure to reactivate your subscription. Yeah, and like as far as that goes, we also got a new Ghost Toasters in the works right now. So it's been about a year and a couple months since we had the episode 3 come out. So we're finally gonna sit down and finish this thing off. So stay tuned.
And it's so funny because I still use those outros. This is Josh from Ghost Toasters, and people are probably saying, "What the heck is Ghost Toasters?"
Well, now they'll know.
Exactly, indeed. But check out everything that's going on in Humanica Media on the Humanica Media YouTube, Podbean, and Apple Podcast channels. As far as Pop Culture Cosmos is concerned, we're actually our thoughts are still with John Sweeney Jr., the head of the Podcast Radio Network, where we got our start. The station is still down right now due to family issues there, and we all of our best to John Sweeney Jr. on that. We hope things get rectified real soon, but you can still find us on many, many other outlets. Obviously, the Pop Culture Cosmos channel on Apple Podcasts. You want to subscribe to there. That's probably the best place to get us because it's so much out there. Also, as well, you can catch us on Podchaser, Google Play, Stitcher, the ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, the Gunna Geek Network, and at least a dozen more outlets. I was telling you about Overcast.fm and playing that at a higher speed, which freaked me out. You can do that too if you want. More power to you if you do. All props and all respect for me for doing that, but you can find us on so many options just by typing in Pop Culture Cosmos, and we truly appreciate you doing so indeed. So Josh, man, I tell you, Rian Johnson, ever since they announced the fact that a new trilogy is on the way for Star Wars, he has just been talking up a storm about that, along with his, obviously, The Last Jedi coming out real soon as well. So I asked you, Josh, he recently talked about doing some things within this new Star Wars universe, but bring some old friends from past Star Wars as well. What are your thoughts on possibly bringing a Jar Jar Binks or Mace Windu or even some other characters, whether, or actually, who would you like to see within this new Star Wars realm?
Okay, so I don't know. Okay,
did you want me to play the Jeopardy music?
No, I'm like trying to think here. Like, yeah, I would like to see Mace Windu, but I feel like George Lucas already did a good job of killing him. Maybe he's still alive out there in the Star Wars universe, but George Lucas like painted him out to be this badass Jedi who just could take anyone to fight. He's part of the Jedi Council, and they finally gave him a chance to like be there and get into the fight, and then he gets thrown out a window. Like, it just doesn't.
It was pretty much like a developer from a video game nerfing a certain weapon, correct?
Correct, yeah, and it was like it was the most anticlimactic thing I've ever seen. So now, like, if there's a proper way to revive Mace Windu's reputation, then hey, I'm all ears. But like right now, the prequel trilogies have left such a bad taste in my mouth that I don't even care to see him come back. And as far as Jar Jar Binks goes, It's weird for me because I didn't think that he was that bad when I first watched episode 1. But granted, I was like 7, so like that was hard for me to.
When I watched it, I was not 7, so I actually got the full gist of Jar Jar Binks. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he didn't bother me until everyone kept talking about how annoying he was, and then finally I sat down and watched the movie one night, and I'm like, all right, he's pretty annoying. But from what I hear or what I've read about his place in the books, the Star Wars books, he feels pretty bad about what he did because technically he's responsible for the rise of the Empire. He gave the powers to Chancellor Palpatine, and that's what ultimately began the destruction of the Galactic Republic. So I'm slightly interested in a story that finds like where he is now and how he feels like a complete idiot for what he did. And like I'm curious what a story of a Jar Jar Binks redemption would look like. I'm not eager for it, but I'm curious.
Well, remember we talked, I don't know, maybe 6-9 months ago on a podcast, on a previous podcast of ours that we talked about, I believe in one of the latest books of the Star Wars universe, the accepted Star Wars universe, that the heroes of the story had actually encountered Jar Jar Binks as something similar to a street clown, I think it was, and that he was very, like you said, very depressed about causing the rise of the empire, so to speak. So he's still alive somewhere, but I believe he, like you said, he was in very much a lot of despair regarding what had happened. So maybe reviving his character and trying to make it turn into a positive, even though that is a very, very difficult task, is something Rian Johnson may look into. He said he might be interested in doing it. So that's something there. Personally, I would be interested to see in the new Solo movie how well Donald Glover does as Lando Calrissian. If he encompasses the charisma and enthusiasm that Billy D. Williams did in his take of Lando Calrissian, if he embodies that spirit, I definitely would love to see his character be a integral part of this new Star Wars trilogy if it takes place at a certain point in time within the Star Wars realm in a different area, whatnot. So I would love to see that part of it if Donald Glover does as well as I believe he will, because I think he's an extremely talented actor, and I really think he's going to be one of those superstars going forward. My goodness, the man just recently got Emmy nominations for Childish Gambino and whatnot. He's going to be able to do very well in Spider-Man Homecoming. He is really a hot actor right now in the marketplace as far as being at the top of his game. And so I definitely, if it all goes well in Solo, could definitely see him being utilized in a new Star Wars universe. Josh, any other characters might stick out to you as far as being utilized that in a new Star Wars universe? I mean, obviously they're going to center themselves around a new series of characters, whatnot, but sprinkling in some of the familiar names might actually not be such a bad idea after all.
Right. And I'm, where I stand on that. I want to see where this current Star Wars trilogy goes, because I don't want to see just another tale of, politics and Sith versus like Jedi. Like if they could expand the scope and like really show what it means to be a Sith or Jedi, or maybe there's a whole hidden society, or there's something bigger at stake. Maybe the universe is at stake, like something on a scale of like Mass Effect's Reapers, I guess, in a way. Like that would be cool to me. Something like, because we've seen these small stories take place. We've seen them all, and they're, as fun as it is to see a return to Star Wars, they're kind of just rehashing this in the new movies so far. And I want to see something big. Like I want to see something on a massive scale take place in the Star Wars universe. Because this is what I was telling you about. Like the whole thing with, I would rather see, sit there and marathon the Avengers, because the Avengers, granted, it's not like cinematically, it's not like as influential as Star Wars, but in every Avengers movie, there's something huge at stake. Whereas in Star Wars, it feels like we have so much political squabbling in modern society here that I want to see something that actually is affects everybody, if that makes sense.
It does. What I'm hoping as well is, and I previously mentioned on one of our shows, that I'm hoping while you have Rian Johnson's timeline of a new Star Wars trilogy, that you will not just abandon after Star Wars Episode 9 the Skywalker saga. And I would still like to see that being represented going forward as well within its own universe. I know that might lead to a little bit of confusion initially, but I am still hopeful that you could play off of each other as far as one going one year, one going the next, as far as continuing that Skywalker saga, because to me, I'm still invested in it. Even if Luke Skywalker dies in this movie or Episode 9, the remnants as far as Poe Dameron, Finn, we talked about Rey, and she's bolting after Episode 9, but still having some of those familiar faces from this part of the Star Wars saga, I would still like to see them carry on in new adventures themselves. So I'm hopeful to continue to see familiar faces within these Star Wars universes in some form or fashion, but also obviously you want them to integrate new and all important figures as well. I think they've done a great job of integrating Rey and Finn and Poe Dameron into the storyline of the Star Wars saga currently, and making them very integral to the narrative going forward. And I want to see them continue to do that. But it's also would be great if we could also see familiar faces that we've grown to love over the course of time still be sprinkled in from time to time within the Star Wars saga, wherever it will go, and whatever universe they're willing to take on. What are your thoughts on the new Star Wars saga? Do you just want them to go full board, clean slate into a different aspect, different time, different part of the Star Wars galaxy, and just deal with something altogether entirely new? Or do you still want to see every now and then some sprinkling in of something familiar that we have grown to love? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Humanican Media on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, we've got Salvador Villa lined up to talk some great holiday gift ideas in board gaming. Stay tuned. That's coming up right after the break. He's going to give his thoughts, and also as well, what is Quentin Tarantino doing with Star Trek? We're going to talk about that as we continue with the PCC as we come right back with the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. This is the PCC Multiverse. My name is Joe Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast. And Josh, want to talk real quick about this love fest going on. Well, actually, not so much. Real quickly about Apple and Google, and also as well Amazon. Google, for some reason, they got mad at Amazon, so they pulled YouTube this week off of Amazon devices. But we found out pretty much the same day and time that Amazon Prime Amazon Prime just got onto Apple TV devices. Could there be a correlation there that Google got mad at Amazon for Amazon going on Apple? What's going on? Can you sort out this mess? And what's this going forward for people who love all these streaming services?
Yeah, it's very weird because I know that like Amazon.
It cannot be coincidence, man. It just cannot be a coincidence.
No, I don't think it is a coincidence, but all three of these services, so we have Google, Amazon, Apple, they all kind of are getting into the same markets now, and it's going to get to the point kind of like it does with movie studios where somebody is going to have to end up buying somebody else. So whether it's Apple is going to absorb Amazon, or Amazon's going to absorb Apple, or someone buys Google, or whatever it is, there are three titans now competing for the same market. And because I know Amazon is actually like crushing everybody. They purchased Whole Foods. Was that
Yes, they purchased Whole Foods. Right now, the Amazon CEO is the wealthiest man on the planet. But I will say this as a caveat: if rumors are true and Disney actually does buy Fox, the price ticket could be for even that property and also what they own, as far as what they're willing to give up, could cost about $40 billion. So Amazon, Apple, and Google trying to buy each other out, would be a lot pricier than that.
Oh, for sure. And well, especially since Amazon has so many assets, not just in things they sell, but in services they offer. Like you have your streaming service, they stream movies, and now they're getting into the market of streaming music, which is something that both Apple and Google do with Google Play, and Apple Music is their streaming service. And it's we're reaching an inevitability here, and it's like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Something's going to happen, and there's so much money involved in this that I'm seeing an implosion of some kind happen in the market. But it's not coincidence. Something is going down. I'm sure we'll hear about it soon. But at this point, it's when is the Trade Commission going to get involved and try to do a little damage control? But who knows, man? Who knows? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, like I said, it isn't a coincidence what happened this week with YouTube leaving Amazon devices and Amazon Prime going on to Apple TV. These, like you said, are three major behemoths in the marketplace vying for the same space with customers and consumers over this burgeoning, growing, with this fast-growing technology and streaming services and whatnot, and everybody changing over and cutting off their cable and all that. I just see at some point in time people having to make a decision on which one will come out on top. But I don't see it. I see basically it's still just jumbled all over the place, and the dust not settling for any time to come. And Rob McCallum, our good friend, that was just earlier in the crossfire, in the Cosmic Crossfire, says it best when he believes that Apple still has something up in the sleeve, that it has not actually really gotten into a streaming service as of yet. And if it does, and it does full board, that could be really something that could blow the doors off of this entire streaming service. So look out for Apple. I think they're the dark horse in this situation as far as what the future holds for it. I think they're just gauging the marketplace as we speak with Apple TV and all their devices going on. And I think if they really put their mind and attention to it, could really come out on top, above YouTube, above Google, above Amazon Prime, and above anything else that anybody else can throw at it, outside of possibly a Disney streaming service. So definitely that's something to look forward to indeed, if Apple does decide to finally jump full board into that marketplace. What are your thoughts on this definite confrontation, this definite battle for the streaming space between Apple, Amazon, and Google? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Humanica Media on Facebook and Twitter as well. But before we head on out, Josh, I got to ask you, it was announced this week that in development that there is a very real possibility that Quentin Tarantino, who had said that the Charles Manson, not a biopic per se, but a story taking place during the Charles Manson murder scenario back in, I believe it was 1969. After that movie he makes, that was going to be his last one. Well, lo and behold, it looks like he may get himself involved into the Star Trek universe, possibly writing and directing, and could be even an R-rated epic in this continuing franchise. So I ask you, Josh, your thoughts on Quentin Tarantino dabbling with the Star Trek universe.
I'm curious what this means. Like, what does a rated R Star Trek film look like? Because Quentin Tarantino doesn't make anything that's not hyper violent or full of vulgarity or something like that. So what does an R-rated movie for the Star Trek universe look like? And is it something that people want to see? If the violence serves a purpose and it exists for a reason and it's not over the top like Kill Bill style, then maybe it could work. Maybe that he could give us a very dark, very gritty Star Trek movie. But he's kind of, I look at it the same way like Guy Ritchie doing big budget films. Like, King Arthur, I liked it, but it didn't work for most people. It was, he tried to take, witty dialogue, quick cut scenes, like his style of filmmaking, and putting it into a big budget film. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing Quentin Tarantino doing. He's trying to take his style of filmmaking and putting it into something that's meant for a very specific audience that he has never worked with before.
Well, definitely it is something that is very intriguing. I was very taken aback, although upon reading and investigating this story a little bit further, he has indicated with public statements in the past that of the two, Star Trek or Star Wars, he would be more apt to be involved with the Star Trek universe if asked. So obviously Paramount, seeing the numbers over the course of time not being where they wanted to be with Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Contact, that maybe they want to go ahead and go into a different realm. Whether the long-rumored Chris Hemsworth coming back as Kirk's father type scenario, that was actually supposed to be going into production a couple years ago, from what I was understood at Comic-Con. That one, I don't know if that's ever going to get off the ground, but if Quentin Tarantino does apply his resources and his talent to something of this nature, that could be very intriguing indeed. I know the new Star Trek Discovery series did make some headway and some controversy by using expletives in its series for the first time in the Star Trek series. So as far as the beloved F word, so that seemed to get people either for it or against it. I know there was a lot of vocal feedback on both realms on both ends because of it. So I'm interested to see where Quentin Tarantino can take the Star Trek universe. I personally, even though I did not like the last Star Trek very much, I still enjoy the series as a whole, and I definitely do like the current roster of characters that portray Kirk and Spock and Dr. McCoy and what have you. I still enjoy them very much, and I still think there's a lot of life for them to go and on adventure after adventure within the Star Trek universe. I'm hopeful that they'll go ahead and make the right move, and if Quentin Tarantino is going to be that individual to lead them into another more grittier, more edgy realm of the Star Trek universe, then it's definitely something that will keep my interest. Then it's definitely something that might pique my interest and might pique others as well. Do you think that it could see the same kind of success as other R-rated films of recent past, like Logan and Deadpool, or do you think it's something that may be too hard-edged to draw in Star Trek fans or gain new ones as well?
That's an interesting question, because it's this is the end of their saga, their quadrilogy of films that they set out to make with J.J. Abrams, and
he would be executive producing this as well. J.J. Abrams, I did want to mention, he would be executive producing as well.
I know, because Tarantino brought the idea to Abrams, and I trust J.J. Abrams as a filmmaker. Like, if he thinks it's a good idea, then we're probably going to see something cool. But we got to ask ourselves, like, what is the R rating there for, and is it necessary? Do we need it? Is it something that audiences want? Because a lot of people, like, it's a chance for them. Same thing with Star Wars, a chance for an older generation to bond with a younger generation by taking their kids to see the franchises they were into when they were kids. And with an R-rated movie, you just got to think of how that's going to affect audiences and box office numbers and stuff. Like, I'm sure it sounds like a cool idea, but is it worth it? Does it serve a purpose? Obviously it worked for Logan. A lot of fans like that, but that's the nature of the source material. With Logan, he was always super violent, and they had never done it justice until then. But there's nothing in Star Trek's history that makes it super bloody or vulgar or anything like that.
I agree with you as well that it's definitely something that is very, very sketchy. I think it'll gain a younger audience. Definitely, I think it'll appeal to a late teens, early 20s audience more so than the current Star Trek movies are doing. But whether or not it retains the old fans as well, that's going to be a hard sell, especially with that type of rating and what you need to do to get that. So definitely we'll have to wait and see if this comes to fruition, then, and see if Quentin Tarantino can take the Star Trek universe boldly. If it can take the if it can take the Star Trek universe to boldly go where no Star Trek universe has gone before. What are your thoughts on Quentin Tarantino, if I can say that right? What are your thoughts on Quentin Tarantino directing, helming, writing, and being involved with the Star Trek universe? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. So Josh, it's been another great episode indeed. I want to thank Rob McCallum and also as well Salvador Villa from Mario Party Wars for being on the show today. And if you get a chance, please, if you can share us some love by liking and subscribing to our show, leave us a review. We truly appreciate it. And if you can, the Discover Pods Awards at discoverpods.com. If you vote for us in the Best Society and Culture podcast category by 12/14, we are truly indebted to you, and we truly thank you for that support. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. I'll try that again. A little slower. Because of the speed factor. I was talking like it was 1.5 speed myself. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. Yeah. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And if you listen to us in 1.5 and 1.6, my gosh, more props to you. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.